These are 5 podcasts that every man should be listening to. Now you might be thinking, why should I be listening to these podcasts, Tino? Well, I'm going to tell you why, right? So I've broken them down into 5 categories. Health, social and emotional development, fun, because we all love a bit of fun every now and then, news, and finances, because we all love money, the green. So, should we get into it? Let's get into it. The first one is health. And the podcast, which I think every man should be listening to, is, someone give me a drum roll, please. Feel Better, Live More with Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. Now, this podcast I really love. I can't lie to you, I really love it. Because it doesn't just focus on like fitness and it's like, this is what you need to do to get healthy. Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's approach is a lot more of a holistic one. He has guests which come on and talk about mindset, which talk about breathing, which talk about skeletal muscle, which talk about diabetes. Like, there's so many aspects of health that he covers, and I really like his vulnerability. I really like how he'll be open and honest with you, and he'll also give you examples of when he was a practicing doctor, of the things that he would do, or the mistakes that he made, or the clients that he saw which changed his perspective. And I think as men, we often don't think about our health. Or if we do think about our health, it's just in terms of looking hench and getting stronger. And that's a great part of our health, a real essential part of our health. But with Rangan podcast, it tells you that there is more to health than just that. That there are so many other things that we need to be focusing on when it comes to our health. And that's why I personally think if you want to understand more about yourself and your health and how you can be the healthiest person possible, then Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's podcast is the one you should go to. So Feel Better, Live More is my first suggestion.
I wanted to start off by asking you to lay it out. Why should anyone who stumbled across this podcast or video care about ultra-processed foods and how much they're consuming?
Because they are most of what we eat, and because we have really good data that they drive a huge number of what we kind of euphemistically call negative health outcomes, which is everything from cardiovascular disease to metabolic disease to early death. So we're pretty sure that ultra-processed food is now the leading cause of early death on planet Earth, ahead of tobacco. Now, when I say pretty sure, according to some data sets in some places, tobacco might still be slightly ahead. In the UK, tobacco might be ahead. But it's really the leading cause of diet-related disease, and it's the leading cause of environmental destruction, loss of biodiversity, plastic pollution, and the second leading cause of carbon emissions. So you have to care about it. And it's just a way of describing the industrial food that makes up what we eat.
Now, number 2. Right, news. So, you're thinking, the news is depressing, Tina. Why do I want to listen to the news, man? Honestly, I don't even watch Sky. I don't watch Sky News anymore, personally. Because you're right, the news is depressing. Who wants to know about what's happening in the world? It actually can be really sad sometimes. But I think we all need to be well informed. And that's why, personally, like I said, I don't watch Sky News anymore. But I do listen to news podcasts. And I think the difference is that with a podcast, you can have a bit more of a nuanced understanding, a nuanced view. You can have someone that comes on and offers a bit more of a diverse perspective. And I just feel like with a podcast, you aren't making the news to try and capture somebody like just flicking through channels. You aren't just trying to use clickbaity or things that are like, oh, look at this and look, this terrible thing that really happened. I think in a podcast, you're really trying to get all the facts, get the information, provide a good analysis on it, and not in a way that makes you scared and fearful about what's happening. I think as men, we need to know what's going on in the world. I think everybody needs to understand what's going on in the world. I think it makes us better citizens of the world. Also makes us more knowledgeable. Also help you make better decisions as well if you know what's going on in the world. So, the podcast I am suggesting is Today in Focus by The Guardian, because they offer a worldwide perspective on a range of different topics. The other day I was listening to one about what's happening in Ecuador and the violence that is going on there, and it's really sad to hear. And it makes you understand a bit more about what is going on in a global essence. We see Trump talking about immigration and migration, but then when you hear about what's happening in Ecuador, it puts it into context, because you're like, oh, that's why people are escaping Ecuador and other Southern American countries to go to the US. So it gives you that understanding. It doesn't make you ignorant and naive to the whims of powerful people that can spread lies. So that is the second podcast you should listen to. And there's so many other news podcasts that you can listen to. That's just one I really love. Number 3, fun. The category is fun. And I can't tell you what fun podcasts to listen to, because it's just based on what you find fun. It's just based on what you like. But I've got some examples of maybe what a fun podcast is. The Receipts podcast is one I really love. It's sad that Milena Sanchez is not on there anymore, because I really loved her there, but Tolly T and Audrey are great hosts. And also, what I really like about that podcast, and one reason why I started listening to it, is because I wanted to have a better understanding of the female perspective and the female experience, especially the black female experience. Because, as men, we don't really know. And women, they also don't really know about our experience either. So that's why I think it's essential for both of us to try and understand each other's perspectives. So the Receipts podcast is one I really love. Shits and giggles, them guys are hilarious. The stuff that they do is just funny. Like, if you need a good laugh, then check out their podcast. For me, I also love basketball. So listening to The Mismatch is fun for me. Hearing their perspectives. Chris Verno, I even love the intro where it's like, Kevin know this, Kevin know that, Kevin! I love it. I just love it. I love it. So they have a really great podcast. And Unexplainable. Even though that one's a bit more of a sciencey one, it's fun for me. I love learning about that stuff, and that is one which I find really good. It's one I find really good. So number 4. I know I gave a few there. I know I've probably given more than 5 podcasts, but fun, it can just be anyone. So, number 4, emotional and social development. Now, this is a podcast that I absolutely love. And if I can be on it one day, that's when you know I've reached some really great heights. So, do you want to guess what it is? Guess. Do you know? Little seconds? Little seconds, and then I'm gonna... I don't know what I did there. Anyway, the High Performance Podcast with Jake Humphrey and Dr. Damian Hughes. Really, really great podcast. Like, they have so many interesting guests that are on there, from James Milner to Bear Grylls, Gordon Ramsay, Fern Cotton. Like, the number is endless. They've got so many great, amazing hosts. The list is endless. They've got so many amazing guests. And what I really like about this is, when we think of high performance, we think of people that are unattainable. We think of people that are like, on the pinnacle of what they do. And yes, they are, but they weren't always that. And what the High Performance Podcast does is takes you on a journey of their development and how they got to be high performers and what high performance means to them. And then there's another thing which I really love what they do. I don't know if they still do it. I haven't heard it in the last few episodes, but they used to have people who weren't necessarily known high performers, but everyone can be a high performer in what they do. You don't have to be David Goggins to be a high performer. You can be a high performer in your life. and you might not be a celebrity. It's okay. It's okay. But I think what they really do well is that at the end of some of their episodes, they have people who message in and be like, this person's a high performer. And they get them on the podcast and they talk to them about what high performance means to them. How is that showing up in their life? So I really like that because it also highlights the fact that everybody can be a high performer. And they have this thing called world-class basics. And when you also hear from these guests, they are doing the world-class basics consistently. And I think that helps me personally in when I'm listening to this, I'm like, okay, I'm not where I want to be just yet. But if I keep being consistent, if I keep doing the world-class basics, it's gonna come. And that's what I love about the podcast, is that it inspires you to keep going, because you can be a high performer one day just because you're not right now. But yeah, just because you're not right now doesn't mean you can't be. Or if you are doing these world-class basics, then maybe you are just doing high performance and it's going to come eventually. So that is 4.
Thank you so much for finding the time to join us.
Good to see you, bud.
And you. What is high performance?
High performance for me is a double-edged sword. It's dangerous. Very, very few make it. And then when you're on that edge, you understand the consequences when you can't get a high performance. So certain issues with perfection is hard to sort of congregate your mind on a daily basis. But high performance is about relentlessness in my mind.
So are you a perfectionist?
I'm a self-confessed perfectionist, yeah. I had a proper insight to perfection early on in my career. And that's a path that you know, there's lanes in life, isn't there? And I'm done with that bullshit about stay in your lane. I want to own my lane. And that's high performance on a daily basis. I need that shot. I think it's one of the most exciting industries to be in as a restaurateur, chef, cook, whatever you want to call it. But there's also the shit end of the stick. There's the double shifts and defrosting frozen food and sticking shit in a fryer. That's the lower divisions of food.
And then number 5, money. Money, 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 money. Now, I can't lie to you, I don't listen to a lot of money podcasts, which I probably should listen to more, to be honest with you. So this one, I just went and found out on the internet. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to pretend like I listened to it, because that's not fair on you, because I'm not giving you an accurate understanding of the podcast. But the podcast in which I found was the top rated podcast for finance, so must be good. It's called The Ramsey Show, and it's a podcast where it's also a radio show too, where people call in and ask about finances and they give advice about what you can do, but they also just offer out financial advice through the episode too. And you know what? I really like those sort of types of podcasts, because when you get real people asking about real issues and you get that financial advice from somebody who obviously knows their stuff, then I feel like it makes it more practical. It makes it more applicable to yourself. And if you're hearing other people have got the same issue as you, helps you feel less alone. So that's what I really like about those types of shows.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, it's The Ramsey Show, where we help people build wealth, do work that they love, and create actual amazing relationships. George Camel Ramsey personality, YouTube sensation, and newly minted best-selling author is my co-host today. His brand new book, I'm proclaiming it a bestseller. It isn't technically yet, but it will be. Breaking Free from Broke, the ultimate guide to more money and less stress. And by attacking all of the evil villains out there in the money space, George very carefully and with great craftsmanship, unpacks all of the traps that you have to avoid and the people that are out there to get you, and in the process gives you hope.
That's the goal.
And if you listen to all these 5 podcasts, I promise you it is going to enrich your life. And so those are 5 podcasts I think every man should be listening to. Should I give some honorable mentions? Should I give a bonus one? Let me do it. Okay, here are my honorable mentions. The Daily, a very great news podcast worldwide. New York Times, they know their stuff. They're really great, interesting topics. There's a BoJack Horseman episode where Diane New, love Diane, has loads of different ringtones throughout the whole show, and one of them is, "This is Michael Barbaro from The Daily, and your phone is ringing." Absolutely love it. If you watched BoJack Horseman, tell me in the comments, tell me if you like it. I love the show. Sadly it was finished, but I like when the show knows when to finish. Right, Ryan Holiday, The Daily Stoic. Well, it's called The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Love Ryan. Stoicism is something in which I feel like is coming back in a resurgence. And Ryan does a really good way of simpling Stoicism in a way that can help you apply it to your life. And he has loads of books, which I've read one of them and I really liked it and I want to read another one. The one I read was Courage is Calling. So highly recommended book, highly recommended. The next one is The Grey Area by Sean Illings. And that one tackles philosophy. It talks about deep topics such as democracy and such as, happiness, such as, I can't even remember, to be fair. There's so many episodes that I've listened to, but it's a philosophy show, but like in a modern twist, in a modern way. So they talk about a lot of things. I'll put some of my favorite episodes of these podcasts into the show notes so you can go and have a listen to them. How I Built This by Guy Raz is another one as well. And that one, when I talked about the High Performance podcast, it also is similarly rated, where you're hearing from people that have built amazing companies, have built amazing life for themselves, and you find out how they did it. And I think when you hear how someone has done something, it inspires you to be able to be like, okay, what can I take from there? What can I understand? What are common themes amongst these amazing people that have built something that I can replicate? And I think that is an invaluable resource. And then the last one, TED Talks Daily. And everyone knows TED Talks. So you get a little bit of an inspiration. You get some creative thinking. You think about stuff which you never really thought, It makes you think about things you never really thought about before. And that's what I really like about TED Talks Daily. So, these are 5 podcasts I think every man should be listening to. And let me know in the comments what you think about these podcasts. If you've listened to them, let me know. You tell me also what 5 podcasts you think men should be listening to. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, peace out, I guess.